they talking real loud. Spreading on light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading on light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading on light, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules. In this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your daily vitamins. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, so let's get ready to get black into it. All right, we're back in business. Okay, y'all know they're doing internet. They're over here working on the internet, so I had to come in a little later. And also, they're going to be working again tomorrow. Okay, so I don't know how that's going to pan out yet. But with that all being said, let's get ready to get black into it. All right, hello, 504 Nola, Lillian X, above all that drama, Dangerous, Claudette, Michelle, Reggie. All right, let's get into it. Cookie, I see you. 504 Nola, Trisha. All right. Pincy Lola. Shout out to all my loyal royals and everyone tuned into the Queen. I see you, Sunset Nights. And a big shout out to my moderators because they put in work. I see you, DJ Big Six, songwriter Sunny. Okay, so Desmond. All right, Roberta on deck. Mr. Elevation. Okay, so with that all being said, and without further ado, I see you, Nubia Ra. Let's get ready to get into it. And Mr. Elevation, like stuff, everyone, please like and share. Before we get started, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes Hair Oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. And don't forget that she sells beard oil as well. Okay, now with that all being said, hold on, let me send this to my email really quick. We have to talk about your lifelines too, because this Hanivirus, yeah, there's more bad news about that. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Hold on. Okay, so first let's talk about Stefon Diggs being found not guilty, which I'm sure none of us were surprised because the accuser was just getting caught up in a bunch of lies, and her story just didn't pan out. The math wasn't mathing, and also she came off as someone who's just a scorned lover. Okay, so I quite frankly was not shocked, and I'm sure you all were either. So let's go to it. Let me see here. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, so I'm gonna pull up the news report. Okay, here we go. Okay, let me share my screen.
Will the jurors and the defendant remain standing? All others may be seated.
Madam Forelady, has your jury agreed upon a verdict?
Yes.
On count one, strangulation or suffocation, what is your verdict? Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
On count two, the charge of assault and battery, what is your verdict? Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Madam Forelady, members of the jury, hearken to your verdict as the court has recorded it. Upon your oath, you say that the defendant is not guilty of the count of strangulation or suffocation and not guilty of the count of assault and battery. So say you, Madam Forelady?
Yes.
So say all members of the jury.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Jurors, please be seated for a moment. Everyone, please. Jurors, I told you during this trial and in my instructions that the verdict was your responsibility and your responsibility alone. Jurors, I want to thank each of you for your careful attention and your service throughout this trial. This case has involved a heightened level of public attention. Despite that, you have remained focused on the evidence presented in this courtroom and the law as I instructed you. That is exactly what is required, and it is essential to the fair administration of justice. I recognize that serving as a juror in any case can be demanding, and in a case such as this, it may have required additional patience and sacrifice. The court is grateful for the seriousness and integrity with which you have carried out your responsibilities. Now that your service is complete, you are free to discuss the case with others if you choose, but you are not required to do so. You should not feel any obligation to speak with anyone, including members of the media. If you are approached, you may simply decline. Whether or not to speak is entirely your decision. All I can say is that on behalf of the court and the parties, thank you again for your public service, and you are now excused with the thanks of the court.
All rise, jurors, and step down.
I find it also interesting.
Probation. and the clerk's office, unless you notify the Commissioner of Probation in writing within 10 days that you do not want the charges sealed, using the request not to seal court records under General Laws, Chapter 276, Section 100C form, which is available on mass.gov. The request not to seal form must be sent to the Office of the Commissioner of Probation by mail or email to the addresses provided on the form. If you want copies of any documents associated with these charges, you must request them immediately before the charges are sealed. Once the charges are sealed, you will not have access to related documents unless you file a motion with the court asking to unseal. Sir, you've been found not guilty. You're free to go.
Court, all rise. Just all media, you can step outside now, media, please. This court stands at a recess.
I bet that poor girl is crying in the car. Bless her heart. Now, with that all being said, his attorneys did speak outside of the courthouse. So let's go to that footage. And like I said, she should have taken that $100,000 that she alleges that he offered her to recant her statements. She would have at least gotten something for her troubles. But now she's got nothing. And I wonder if she's going to have to pay those attorney's fees. It's all nefarious at the end of the day.
Judge and the jury for running an efficient case and listening to all the evidence and coming to a just result. Domestic violence is a very, very serious issue in this country. And it's disconcerting when people use it as a sword and manufacture claims in an attempt to extract money. I believe the jury saw through that today. And we are very, very pleased with this result. I'm thankful for someone like Stefon Diggs, who insisted that he get his day in court so that his truth could be heard. And it was heard. No assault ever occurred, as Andrew said, both during his opening and his summation. People have to stop targeting professional athletes and trying to extract money. They have a target on their back, and it's hard enough doing what they do. And this has to stop. People should focus on real victims from domestic violence, and allegations like this do a tremendous disservice to those who are really afflicted and impacted by causes like this. And it's been an honor to represent Stefon, and I could not be more proud of him that he insisted that we see this through and that the truth be told.
After the verdict was read, he got emotional and he clutched his lawyers. How is Stefon doing right now?
It's an emotional thing to have false allegations levied at you. This has impacted him both personally and professionally. And so, yeah, he's an emotional person, but he's a person. He's a human being. And people just look at professional athletes like they don't have feelings and they don't have emotions and they don't have cares. They do, and he certainly does, and he's not shy about expressing that. So our hope is that this is now behind him, that he will get signed by a team. Any team that signs him will be lucky to have him. We are very pleased and happy that Stefon will, continue on and play football in the National Football League.
Describe the impact. You said you impacted him professionally and emotionally stressful. Give us more details on that.
Well, I just think teams have been reluctant to sign him with these false charges hanging over his head. And now that he has been exonerated and his truth has been heard and his position that this never occurred and he's been falsely accused, he's been vindicated. And I believe that a team will reach out and sign him imminently, and they're going to be lucky to get him.
But everything that happened with one witness, was there ever a talk of a mistrial during the past 2 days?
Not by us. We wanted this case to run its course and be completed. And there were a lot of missteps in this case Whoever was listening saw it. But we, I believe, Sarah and Andrew and I, wanted this to see its end shortly. And so we persevered and we made sure that there was no mistrial and that the jury had an opportunity to opine and render a verdict. And they rendered a just verdict.
Was there ever a consideration to settle this, especially early on?
Never. Stefon was not going to settle this case. He was falsely accused, and he wanted everyone to know.
I find it all interesting. Well, that's over. I'm sure he can breathe a sigh of relief. Now, Cookie said that she kind of feels sorry for the accuser, and that's because she's a Pisces. Cookie, I'm going to call BS and tell you, beloved, that if you feel kind of sorry for her, it's not because you're a Pisces, okay? Because I'm a Pisces too, and I don't feel anything except contempt for the lies that she told. When there are actual victims who are actually assaulted, victims of DV every day on a regular basis, it's an epidemic in this country, in my opinion. And when you have liars who lie like she did, it just makes everyone else just get set back. Now, the reason you feel sort of sorry for her, beloved, is because you're likely a sucker. Okay, you're likely a sucker, Cookie. That's probably why, beloved. There's one born every minute. There's literally one born every minute, beloved. Don't blame it on the Pisces. Okay, because we're petty. That's one thing I'll say globally. Pisces are petty. And petty people don't tend to feel sorry for liars who lie. Okay, Sheila said, I'm a Pisces and do not feel sorry. See, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, beloved, if you're a sucker, just say you're a sucker. You Cookie, you know I'm just messing with you. I'm just trying to get my laughs in this morning however I need to. And unfortunately, it's at your expense. Now, that all being said, who's next? Okay, let me quit being silly. Let's get down to business. Because the fact of the matter is, well, hold on. Let's go to a few highlights from the trial, shall we? Because they did a recap. Let's see if we can let's see what this recap is all about before we get into the news about the war and this nefarious virus, okay? Please pay attention, y'all. We might be on a whole nother lockdown. Nene said I'm staying quiet. Not roasting y'all today. I'm just teasing. Okay, so now let's see what they're showing on here. If it's anything interesting, we'll check out a couple of minutes.
Will the jurors and the defendant remain standing? All others may be seated.
Madam
Star of assaulting his former live-in cook. Eli Rosenberg joins us live outside Dedham District Court. Eli, the speed of this is noteworthy, start to finish in just 2 business days.
Yeah, and the verdict also very speedy. Deliberations about 90 minutes, Glenn. And after all was said and done, Stefondiggs leaving the courthouse right here down these steps. He did not want his talk. His lawyers, though, had plenty to say this evening.
What is your verdict? Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
It took about 90 minutes of deliberations.
The charge of assault and battery. What is your verdict? Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
The jury in the Stefondiggs trial returning 2 not guilty verdicts in his 2-day trial. How do you feel about that verdict? Diggs not talking as he left court. He did clutch his lawyers in the courtroom after the verdict was read.
He's emotional, but he's happy. He's happy that he's been vindicated.
All right.
Diggs was accused of assaulting and choking his former personal chef inside his Dedham home this past December. From the start, his lawyers denying it ever happened, calling those who saw Mila Adams in the hours and days after the alleged attack to the stand.
Did you notice bruising, developing, redness, any kind of physical marks on Miss Adams?
No.
On December 4th, 5th, 6th, did you notice any of that?
No.
Did Ms. Adams ever tell you that she had been assaulted or strangled?
No.
Did she ever mention any kind of an attack?
No.
And during closing arguments, prosecutors trying to stick to the facts.
Was Miss Adams a perfect witness? No. She was argumentative, avoided, difficult. But does that mean you should throw away everything she says? She said no.
The jury did ask one question during deliberations about the elements that made up the crime, returning shortly later with those two not guilty verdicts.
We wanted this case to run its course and be completed. And there were a lot of missteps in this case. Whoever was listening saw it. This case never should have been brought. It was a waste of resources.
It really was.
And a couple other notes from court today. First of all, the prosecutor left without talking. Second of all, did see the jurors leave court, asked if any of them wanted to talk. That jury was made up of 5 women and 1 man. They did not want to talk. And I also, Glenn, reached out to the DA's office for comment about everything that we saw play out over the last 2 days and have not heard back.
Eli, Mila Adams, the accuser, was the only one to testify in both days of this trial. And on both days, the judge had to admonish her for going beyond what the question was asking her to answer. Was there ever a risk of that creating a mistrial of sorts?
And I talked to a lawyer in the courtroom, and he said in all of his decades practicing law, he cannot remember a time when a judge and a witness interacted so many times. I did ask Diggs' lawyers after the fact, hey, was there any talk of a mistrial? They said, absolutely not. They said they had 100% conviction in this case. They really wanted to see it to the end, a decision that paid off with these 2 not guilty verdicts.
Eli, there was so much talk about money during this case. What did Diggs' lawyers have to say this afternoon about the potential that it was alluded to that he may have offered money as a settlement prior to the trial?
Yeah, JC, a lot of talk of money during the 2-day trial and a wide range in money as well, from $19,000 yesterday to $5.5 million, according to Diggs' lawyers today. After the fact, Diggs' lawyers are very adamant on this one, saying there was never talks of a settlement. Back to you.
Eli Rosenberg, live for us outside Dedham District Court. Thank you.
Joining us tonight for further discussion is NBC.
Payers' dollars, people are
records, no statements, no nothing between you have not.
I was hoping they were going to show her on the stand. But anyway, you know, it's over and done with. And let me tell you something. The prosecutor in this case absolutely should never have brought the case forward. There was not enough viable evidence for him to win. Second of all, he did such a piss poor job, in my opinion, that the entire time I kept calling him her attorney. Did y'all even catch that? Like, I literally was forgetting that he was the whole prosecutor. I kept saying her attorney's only going to ask one question because he was doing awful. Okay? No further questions. That's it. That's all you got? How did he ever think he was going to win? Okay? Oh, so nefarious, but let's continue. So now let's talk about this Hanivirus, because as I told you all, it's gotten worse. It looks like the source where it came from is actually in Argentina, where the ship left. So let's talk about it. I have a timeline. That's why I was late this morning, just to give my excuse. I was actually trying to put together a timeline before I got on here. So here's the thing. So the ship left to set sail on April the 1st from Argentina, about 150 people. Now, by April the 11th, that was the first death. April the 11th, the first person died on the ship. And then April the 24th is when their body was disembarked. And that was in St. Helena. So then April the 26th, they sailed to South Africa. That's when a second person died. And that person died after getting off the ship, or that person actually died when they were at the airport. Okay, so then a third person died on May the 2nd. And on May the 3rd, that's when they were like, okay, they can't dock the ship. So anyway, now keep in mind that this Hanivirus is spread from rodents, from their droppings, and then you breathing in the whatever you call it, the spores or whatever. And then also, it wasn't supposed to be spread person to person, so not really contagious. But now here lies the problem. They're thinking that it could be at the Andes. Hold on, let me make sure I'm pronouncing this right. The Andes Hanivirus, which is another version of the virus, the Andes virus. It's another type, a subtype of the Hanivirus. So let's get into it. So they say two possible causes for the cruise ship hantavirus outbreak. One is disgusting and the other is terrifying. So the suspected hantavirus outbreak on the MV Hondias cruise ship, which has killed 3 people and sickened at least 7 others, has 2 likely causes, and both are bad news for the 150 passengers aboard, according to experts. Now, the most likely scenario would be passengers contacting or contracting the virus from the feces, urine, or saliva of infected rats or mice. Now, that's the usual transmission vector, according to Dr. Zaid Fadul, a former Air Force flight surgeon, although the World Health Organization insisted Tuesday that no rodents had been found on the stranded liner. So there was no rodents on board, is what they're saying. So then they had to start looking elsewhere for the cause. Well, they say, but there's one strain of the hantavirus that has an alarming exception, and the one that the World Health Organization conceded can't be ruled out, and that's the Andes virus. That one specific subtype of the hantavirus in Argentina, which is where they left. And guess what? The Andes virus comes from Argentina, from the Andes Mountains. That's where it comes from. So that's likely where they got it. So it was on the ship as soon as the ship left for sail. Okay, likely. Now, it goes on to say in Argentina, where they were, is the one that's transmitted person to person. That's why this is more scary. This one doesn't need to be contracted through rodents. This one is person to person. Okay? Person to person. Those poor people on that ship. Now, with that all being said, that's where a lot of anxiety in the case is now coming from. Okay, the Andes hantavirus strain carries a mortality rate of nearly 40%, meaning a worst case scenario could spiral quickly into a confined environment such as the 80 cabin 353-foot ship, okay, according to the docs. Now, that's why everyone is so afraid. The World Health Organization confirmed Tuesday that it is the working theory and that people may have been infected before even boarding the ship. They say, we do believe that there may be some human-to-human transmission that is happening amongst the really close contacts. This is what Maria van Kerkhove said. Okay, the World Health Organization's Epidemic and Pandemic Preparedness and Prevention Director. The Dutch cruise liner had departed from Ushuaia, Argentina on March the 20th for its weeks-long Atlantic Odyssey voyage before the suspected hantavirus outbreak turned deadly. 3 passengers have since died, 1 confirmed with hantavirus, and another is fighting for his life as the vessel with roughly 150 passengers remained stranded off West Africa on Monday. Authorities were working to evacuate 2 additional sick passengers as well. They say if it is the Andes virus, you've got 150 people stuck on a cruise ship in close contact. Still, experts stress that there's no reason to panic. Are they serious? Easy for them to say. Of course, there's a reason to panic, not just for the people on that ship, but for us to panic. There's a reason for everyone to be panicked. This thing is transmitted person to person. Okay, that's the concern. Now, with that all being said, they say prevention is key. Okay, this is what the doctor says, adding that good hand hygiene, staying away from people, and wearing a mask while around others could significantly reduce risk. Health officials say a less terrifying explanation is far more likely. Exposure to a rodent-borne strain, which is typically contracted by inhaling the virus from infected droppings. Okay, he doubts the source originated on board, saying they could have picked it up anywhere. I don't think it came from the ship, noting that the hantavirus can take 2 weeks to show symptoms after exposure. Now, other experts say and they agreed that the outbreak probably came from vermin. Okay, said the most likely situations that people traveling from South America came into contact with infected rodents rodents droppings in this part of the world. Okay, this is what a virus researcher named Giulio Gallo said, and he works at the Purebright Institute in the UK. Y'all do know the Purebright Institute owned in the UK is owned by Bill Gates and his wife, yeah, or I'm sorry, his ex-wife, yeah, they own that. Anyway, at the moment, we cannot be sure where the contact happened. It might have been during touristic activities in the region, or infected rodents might have been present on the ship. So the company said that it was managing a serious medical situation and looking into whether the ship could sail to the Canary Islands, about 1,000 miles northeast, so that passengers could be screened and allowed to leave the vessel. Honey, if I was on that island, I wouldn't want them anywhere near there. I would not want them. That's a recipe for disaster. Gallo said the World Health Organization and other public health agencies will have to investigate the circumstances leading up to the 3 suspected hantavirus deaths aboard the ship. Now said it would be necessary to identify any potential source of infection on the ship and trace back the journey of the patients to know if they visited American regions where hantaviruses are reported. So what do you all think? This all sounds real scary, like I said. And at the end of the day, I think it definitely came from Argentina. And I think it definitely is the Andes. Okay, that's what I think. I think they're trying to remain hopeful as not to cause a panic. But hold on. Let me see what's the latest updates. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Okay, now here's a report from just 25 minutes ago. So here's what they say. Investigators tell the AP leading theory is couple on cruise ship contracted hantavirus on bird watching trip in Argentina. This is what they're speculating. Hold on. Let me see if I can get a news clip on this. Hold on, beloveds. On a bird watching trip. Here it is right here. 3 passengers evacuated. Okay, this is from 5 hours ago. Let's go to this report. This is very interesting. I'm going to share my screen.
Kenya, Budapest, Hungary, Krakow, Poland,
Osaka, Japan, Sao Paulo.
Google MD has not assured the people on the internet that there is a greater danger. And I understand there's not a cure for hantavirus. I think I'm getting that right. And the mortality rate, 35 to 38%. So can you talk about what it is that is making this strain a problem on this ship?
So public health experts suspected from really the first hint of this outbreak on the boat that there might be human-to-human transmission. Typically, the North American, South American variants of this virus are spread via rodent droppings. In the United States, it's typically the deer mouse. And in South America, where it appears this virus originated, is typically something called the pygmy rice rat, a lovely name for the morning. And it comes about by exposure to feces or urine or the saliva of the rodent. But in rare cases, the South American variant, called the Andes variant, can spread via human to human transmission. But it's thought that that requires very close contact. So the first 2 people to contract this virus were a husband and wife, so presumably sharing sharing the same cabin in close contact.
Mm-hmm.
The concern about this virus, in terms of tracking all the people on the boat, I think there are about 80 something passengers and a similar number of crew, is that the incubation period is very long. The incubation period can be anywhere from a week after exposure to 8 weeks after exposure. So ideally, what one would want to do with the passengers on this boat is quarantine all the passengers on this boat until the incubation period has passed.
Can I jump
But
in
to
here
do
with
that-
something? I was hearing though that it was between the first death and actually a proper diagnosis, it was like 21 days. And this Swiss person is somebody who was on the ship and got off the ship. So I know you're getting there, but like, how helpful is a quarantine if the disease could be spreading all this time while they're on the boat?
Right, so that's exactly the reason for quarantining these passengers away from the general public for up to eight weeks. You want to isolate all of the folks who have been potentially exposed to the virus but not yet sick. But to know whether they are actually sick with the virus might take several weeks. It's thought that people who are contagious about the time they start to develop, sort of typical viral-like symptoms with this virus. The passengers boarded this boat on April 1st, and the first passenger to actually develop symptoms and subsequently die developed symptoms about 4 days later, strongly suggesting that he contracted the virus on land, not on the boat itself. And the fact that other passengers have gotten sick as much as 2 or 3 weeks later is consistent with the longer incubation period for this virus. So it's going to take a while to sort out exactly how many people have contracted the virus. I'll say that one of the people who is sick with this virus is the ship's doctor, who would have had close contact with ill passengers.
Before I let you go, you have countries like Cape Verde saying, please don't dock here. Are countries turning people away because they don't have the kind of medical support needed, or is it really out of their abundance of caution or fear of there being person-to-person transmission?
Well, it's probably a little bit of all of that. And I think this is what international health organizations are really designed to do. The World Health Organization, the CDC, really are tasked with dealing with these outbreaks. I'll say that last year, the United States unit of the CDC that is tasked with responding to cruise ship outbreaks suffered about 50% of the people who work for that unit in the CDC were fired, leaving a very limited resource in the United States for handling these kinds of outbreaks should boats approach the U.S. shores. So in a world of emerging pathogens, we have to constantly be on guard for these kinds of threats. And it's not a happy thing to talk about, but the CDC and World Health Organizations are essentially intelligence services, medical intelligence services, tasked with identifying these threats early and doing the kind of containment necessary to prevent wider spread.
Okay, so let me just tell you all this. So since that was recorded 2 hours ago, a report has come out saying that the World Health Organization confirms the Andes strand of the hantavirus in cruise ship passengers, with 3 transferred from ship for treatment. 3 people, including the ship's doctor, transferred from the ship for medical treatment, and there's 1 new case that is suspected. They say that it is confirmed that it is the Andes strand of the hantavirus. Okay, they've identified it, which can be transmitted from person to person. So like I said, okay, in passengers who were on the cruise ship at the center of a deadly outbreak. Meanwhile, 3 patients with suspected hantavirus infections were evacuated from the MV Honda ship and were being flown to the Netherlands on Wednesday. The UN's health agency gave these details. They say the vessel remained off Cape Verde with nearly 150 people aboard, waiting to head to Spain's Canary Islands. The ship's doctor was among the 3 transferred. The doctor's condition has improved, Spain's health ministry says, after he was described earlier in the week as being in serious condition. Oceanwide Expeditions, the ship's company, has told the Associated Press the doctor is now in stable condition. The Dutch Foreign Ministry said that the 3 being evacuated were a 56-year-old Briton, a 41-year-old Dutch national, and a 65-year-old German. The ministry said that they would be immediately transferred to specialized hospitals in Europe. A Dutch hospital confirmed it would take 1. German authorities said they were preparing for a second. They say 2 remain in serious condition. Oceanwide Expedition says this, and the 3rd had no symptoms, but was closely associated with a German passenger who died on May the 2nd. So the World Health Organization Director, General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, on Wednesday confirmed that 3 patients were evacuated, and at this stage, the overall public health risk remains low. Okay, that's what he posted on his X account. They say all passengers remaining aboard are asymptomatic, and non-Spanish citizens will be repatriated to their countries after the ship arrives in Tenerife in the Canary Islands from Cape Verde. Spanish Health Minister Monica Garcia gave those details today. Now, Garcia said 14 Spaniards will be transferred by plane to the hospital in Madrid to quarantine. Passengers from other countries will not be required to quarantine in Spain, with the decision being up to officials in their respective countries. The Honda's passenger list includes persons representing over 20 countries, including 4 Canadian citizens. Global Affairs Canada previously told CBS News there are no reports of Canadians being directly affected by the outbreak. So hantavirus is spread by rodents more rarely than people, and to date, the Andes strand is the only type of hantavirus in which human-to-human transmission has been confirmed, usually through close contact, such as by sharing food, a bed, or things like that. According to experts, hantavirus can cause cardiopulmonary issues among patients and can have a fatality rate up to 50%, according to the World Health Organization. Patients who are hospitalized can require supplemental oxygen or medical ventilation. Okay, the World Health Organization has said hantavirus has been confirmed in 3 individuals who were on the ship and is suspected in 5 others. Total increased after authorities in Switzerland confirmed another case on Wednesday. So that's about the gist of it. All right, so this is all serious. Okay, I hope they hurry and get this contained. I hope they hurry and get it contained. It looks like they're working on it pretty hastily. Prayers to anybody that's affected, for all the people on that ship, because that's really, really sad and scary. Okay, but let's continue. So now with that all been said, let's get into our war updates. Hold on, before we get to that, let's talk about this. This young lady did a very interesting video. Kevin sent me this. Okay, talking about, don't worry, there's not going to be another lockdown. Okay, so let's get into it. Likes up, everyone, please like and share.
The Hanivirus cruise ship. Are you worried that we might end up in another lockdown? Let me explain. There isn't going to be another lockdown, at least not here in the United States. There are a number of people in Trump's inner circle who are absolutely 100% behind the idea of reducing the surplus population, as Charles Dickens once wrote in A Christmas Carol. They understand that there are 342 million Americans living here today, and they want about 100 million Americans to be living here. We see this first from Stephen Miller, who is, jump scare, no surprise. This is an older article from February of this year. Let me show you exactly where the quote comes from, how I can verify this information. At the bottom of that Forbes article I just showed you, it says, Last year, the New York Times reported, quote, in one meeting during the 2024 campaign, Mr. Trump said that if it were up to Mr. Miller, there would be only 100 million people in this country, and they would all look like Mr. Miller, meaning white. So let's be clear. Up until this point, Stephen Miller, then DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, and now the new DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen, have been trying to reduce the population of the United States by doing sort of like let's just call it what it is, a racial cleansing, right? They're going after people who are immigrants and or look like immigrants and or sound like immigrants. And by immigrants, I should probably correct myself. I mean non-white people. White people stole this land. Anyway, that's a different TikTok. The point being, they are deporting people or just caging them up somewhere. All of that being done, all of that being said, they being this regime, the overhead, the wizards behind the curtain, feel that this is not happening fast enough. And so I need to introduce you to our next figure who, by the way, trigger warning, this is incredibly dystopian and it also talks about genocide. So if you need to scroll. This vile-looking creature from the Black Lagoon with lifeless eyes is Curtis Yarvin. And if you don't know who he is, it's a can of worms. Be careful with your Google searches. But what you need to know here is that he is a techno-authoritarian. That is the government system he believes in. And what that is essentially the most dystopian version of a country you could imagine. We are talking about the elimination of most of the federal government. We saw a dismantling of that at the beginning of this term, by the way, with the Doge cuts. Anyway, so taking away the federal government, having quote unquote CEOs at the top, people like himself and others that I will mention, and then running this country through a dictatorship that is highly IT optimized, which in the most basic of terms means mass surveillance. It means facial recognition everywhere. It means things like censorship and internet blackouts, and using all of that to control not just domestic populations, but also those that are international, abroad. So it is very, very dystopian. And one of the most disgusting pieces of Curtis Yarvin's ideology is found in an article. I want to show the end of that article, and then I'm going to show you the top. It has to be introduced that way. Trust me, I'm getting to my source. This is out of the New Republic. I'll show you all of that information in 1 second. The article says, in 2008, a software developer in San Francisco named Curtis Yarvin, writing under a pseudonym, proposed a horrific solution for people he deemed, quote, not productive. Convert them into biodiesel, that's real, which can help power the Mooney buses, which is a system of transportation. After saying all of that insanity, Yarvin says that he was, quote, just kidding, but then continued his statement, saying, quote, the trouble with the biodiesel solution is that no one would want to live in a city whose public transportation was fueled even just partly by the distilled remains of its late underclass, meaning the killed, quote unquote, unproductive members of society, according to Curtis Yarvin. However, it helps us describe the problem we are trying to solve. Then he says, our goal, in short, is a humane alternative to genocide. It's right there. Take a screenshot if you want. He then concluded in the statement that the best humane alternative to genocide is to virtualize these people, imprison them in permanent solitary confinement, where, to avoid making them insane, they would be connected to an immersive virtual reality interface so they could, quote, experience a rich, fulfilling life in a completely imaginary world. Yarvin's disturbing manifestos, and this is very important, earned him influential followers, chief among them tech billionaire Peter Thiel and his one-time Silicon Valley protege, then Senator J.D. Vance. And this is why I had to wait to show you the New Republic article, because this is where Vance gets his weird, terrifying, techno-authoritarian ideas. Because he was Peter Thiel's protege, who was friends with Curtis Yarvin, and Peter Thiel ultimately introduced J.D. Vance to President Donald Trump. The day that J.D. Vance meets Donald Trump face-to-face for the first time, he is quite literally ushered into Trump's Mar-a-Lago office by Peter Thiel, who, by the way, will bring Yarvin's twisted techno-authoritarianism to the White House. But this is even better than they imagined, because now they could potentially have a pandemic on their hands. And this time, it is a virus with a mortality rate of nearly 40%. Your survival chances of this are much, much lower when it comes to this versus COVID-19.
Okay, so what do you all think about that? What do y'all think about that? I mean, it absolutely sounds nefarious if you ask me. Okay, let's reference the Georgia Guidestones where it told us, literally told us how many people they wanted in the population. And if you all remember, before the Guidestones were destroyed, I went to visit the Guidestones, March of 2021. Okay, so I'm going to go to that clip for those of you who missed it. But there's a reason they destroyed the Georgia Guidestones. And if you all remember, I told you all I had never been to them, but I was going to go and see them because I felt it in my spirit that they were going to be suddenly destroyed once everybody started talking about this nefarious agenda, okay, of which she just spoke. But people were called conspiracy theorists. Please pay attention. This was March of 2021.
Okay, so hello, Royals. This is Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur from Authentic Black Goddess TV. As you can see, I'm down here in Elberton, Georgia at the Georgia Guidestones. Now, tomorrow, this is Sunday. So tomorrow, Monday, March the 22nd, is actually the 40-year anniversary of its completion. And I had to come down here to see this for myself. I have always been very curious about it. And I just wanted to make it down here to see it. And so we can talk about this on a live that I plan to do tomorrow. So let me tell you a little bit about it. It has a message for humanity, and it's written in numerous languages. They have it written first in English. They have it in Russian, Chinese, Arabic, Hebrew, Swahili, Spanish, and Hindi. Okay? It's the same message. They also have some Egyptian hieroglyphics at the top. And this is very interesting. They tell you how much it weighs. It also has Babylonian cuneiform written on it as well. It says, "Let these be guidestones to an act of reason." It also has classical Greek and Sanskrit engraved on it, or engraved on it. Okay? It has astronomic features as well. So I'm gonna walk around so you can see the full view of it. And I'm gonna read you what it says in English. It says, "Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Guide production wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Unite humanity with a living new language. Rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Balance personal rights with social duties. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature." So that's what it says. I'm going to zoom in so you all can see this. As you can see, the different languages on here as well. And here it is in Chinese. And then it's in Arabic over here. At the top, let me move out so you can hopefully see this. It has the Egyptian hieroglyphics. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. It's a cloudy day. Yesterday would have been better because the sun was out a lot more. Okay, so here is the Hebrew language, which you all know that I read Hebrew. Okay, and then this is Hindi, I believe. I don't know much about Hindi, but I think this is Hindi. Okay, and then on this other side, this is Swahili. Okay, and then this is Spanish. So it has Sanskrit at the top. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of gloomy out here. So I'm gonna, oh, and also in the center, someone placed Bibles here. I think it's the New Testament. As you can see, the New Testament, there's one on each side. I don't know if R.C. Christian put those there or someone else who came out here put them there. But this is very interesting. And there's quite a few people here looking at the exhibit. So anyway, with that all being said, I'm going to go ahead and conclude this broadcast. I'll be showing you all this tomorrow on my live. Peace and blessings.
Okay, so I had a good time that day. I met some wonderful people there that I'm still in contact with to this day. Now, Odd Negroes Official asked, why were they destroyed? Well, in my opinion, they were destroyed, and I knew they were going to be destroyed because just as I predicted the pandemic and the venom before they happened, I predicted like 2 weeks before it ever happened. I also predicted they were going to destroy those guidestones. That's why I went there when I did. And I think the reason they were destroyed is because during the time of the pandemic, a lot of people were saying things about depopulation. Okay, a lot of people were saying things about they felt like that's what it was and whatever. And so that right there tells you the guidestones were proof that they only want 500 million people. Keep it under the population under 500 million. Okay? That's what it said. So I think that's why that was destroyed because what people were saying. And no one was ever prosecuted for it. Okay, no one ever was prosecuted. D Major said, if you're predicting another pandemic, Queen, just don't tell us. I don't think I can handle another round of lockdowns and stuff, LOL. At the end of the day, if there is another one, we're going to be on lockdown for sure. But bottom line is, I think that Trump is going to start, and I think that he really wants to enact martial law anyway. That's just my opinion. Okay, so now with that all being said, let's get into the war updates because I don't want to keep y'all on here all day. First off, Trump has to tuck his tail because he's taking yet another L. Okay? Ha! Bars. I wasn't even trying to rhyme. Trump needs to tuck his tail because he's taking yet another L. Bars, y'all. Pentilona said, this is why I love you, Queen. Thank you, beloved. I love you right back. Thank you for your kind words and your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, let's go to this post. Okay, because Trump should be ashamed of himself. Now, so this was posted from the Hormuz letter. It says, the cargo ship attacked by Iran in the Strait of Hormuz yesterday has been identified as the French-owned CMA CGM San Antonio, attempting the U.S.-backed crossing and designated route by Trump. This is all Trump's fault. Okay, please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, it was the designated route by Trump with AIS transponders switched off. Okay, UKMTO hid the location to avoid admitting the U.S. route isn't safe. Do y'all hear it? Trump later canceled Project Freedom 4 hours later. Y'all hear this? This is what I was trying to tell y'all yesterday. Trump's full of BS, okay? That whole Project Freedom was not going anywhere. I don't know what he thought, then trying to act as though he has any humanitarian efforts underway for anyone anywhere. Okay, talking about he's going to be having them guide the ships on through. Well, the whole route, okay, was clearly, as you see what happened. The cargo ship went through there and was immediately attacked by Iran. But we're winning. Okay? It was identified as the French-owned ship that Trump told to go that way. Take this route. You'll be safe. Go through here. Only to get attacked. Now he cancels the mission 4 hours later. Okay? Are y'all paying attention? This is y'all's president. But hold on. Sad but true. And now the Iranians are mocking Trump as per usual, clearly clowning him. Here's the next post. Axios' text is Americans' wish list until it becomes reality. Americans will not obtain through a failed war what they failed to gain in face-to-face negotiations. Iran has its finger on the trigger. And now, mind you, that's a quote from Keg's Breath, because that's what he's always said. We've got our finger on the trigger. Well, it looks like Iran does. Okay, Iran has its finger on the trigger and is ready. If they do not surrender and grant the necessary concessions, or if they or their devilish hench dog allies try to act mischievously, we will deliver a harsh and regret-inducing response. Y'all hear it? That's what Iran said. Okay? Let me read that again. Iran has its finger on the trigger and is ready if they do not surrender and grant the necessary concessions, or if they or their devilish hench dog allies try to act mischievously, we will deliver a harsh and regret-inducing response. Okay, not regret-inducing. Do y'all hear it? Okay, Trump, please just call it all off and let our military go home. Okay, stop this foolishness before it's too late. So anyway, now I'm sure he's not pleased at all. Fauci is currently visiting China ahead of Trump's planned visit, mind you. Let's go to the clip.
The Iranian foreign minister is here in Beijing for talks just 1 week before U.S. President Donald Trump is due to arrive for a high-stakes summit with Chinese leader Xi Jinping, already delayed once by the Iran war. Now, the conventional wisdom is the Chinese benefit anytime the U.S. military is mired in quagmire. And also much has been said about China buying Iranian oil despite the U.S. sanctions, providing Tehran with an economic lifeline. But analysts agree China's goals and priorities are more practical. The Chinese economy needs reliable access to energy to fuel growth at home, but also a stable global market for its exports. A prolonged war, especially the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, would hurt both. Now, Chinese officials did play a role in bringing the current ceasefire, but analysts say Beijing may not be in a hurry to ramp up pressure on Tehran just yet. China's oil stockpile and its pivot to green energies make it better prepared than almost anyone else in dealing with an oil shock. And also, Chinese officials may want to wait for an in-person request from President Trump, with him coming here without a quick win in Iran, to play up any positive results from the Trump-Xi summit. And analysts also point out that this war may help reinforce Beijing's message about its global appeal as a cornerstone for stability and innovation, in contrast to all the chaos and destruction unleashed by Washington. As one of them put to us, the U.S. is fighting without winning, and China is winning without fighting.
So the U.S. is winning without fighting, and China is fighting without winning. What? No, the U.S. is fighting without winning, and China is winning without fighting. Do y'all hear this? Pensalona says Africa better make that boat go leaking in the water. Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. But it looks like they're going to be heading elsewhere before they they're supposed to be heading to the Canary Islands, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, but thank you for your insight, beloved, and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Listen, I hope they wrap this up real quick, because you all remember about 2015 it was when they had the people with the Ebola. Y'all remember that? They had people with Ebola and they brought them here to Atlanta to put them in Emory Hospital, if you all remember. I remember people were ordering hazmat suits and masks. I know I did. Okay, it was a scary time. Now, like I said, prayers for everybody that's still living with that virus. I hope they get the treatment that they need, but sadly, there's no cure. So I don't know what they're going to do about it.
President Trump says Project Freedom is now paused. He says the operation to escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz is on hold to see if U.S. and Iran can finalize a deal. Foreign correspondent Tom Sufi-Burridge is in Tel Aviv with more on that. Hi, Tom. Where do talks stand now, and what happens to ships waiting to cross the strait?
Good question. I think they're just going to have to wait for now. I mean, if you look at the numbers here, Diane, 1,500 ships, according to CENTCOM, west of the Strait of Hormuz, trapped in the Persian Gulf. And look, the Operation Freedom, from President Trump, which was announced late Sunday. I mean, it had begun on Monday morning, so we're less than 2 days into it when it's being paused. And if you look at what's happened in the interim, serious exchanges of fire between the Iranians and the U.S. military near to the Strait of Hormuz, the U.S. military taking out the small gunboats, but the Iranians firing cruise missiles at naval ships and at commercial ships, according to the U.S. military, and then Iran firing at the United Arab Emirates in a significant way with drones and missiles, escalating things. And now the pause. So, look, the suggestion is that military operations create the security dynamic around the Strait of Hormuz might have really, basically taken control in the military sense of that area, but it doesn't appear to have given the confidence for enough commercial vessels to start making the journey. We only saw 2 US-linked ships in the very initial phase. Yesterday, we saw absolutely no ships, as far as we're aware of, actually make the journey through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, look, President Trump is saying that he is giving diplomacy a chance. He says that, basically, the Pakistanis have asked for this. They're the mediators. And he's suggesting that there is a deal to be done. But there is confusion. Look, I mean, late yesterday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio was saying Operation Epic Fury, the bombing campaign on Iran, which ended about a month ago with a ceasefire, he said that has concluded. Now, President Trump is not quite saying that today. He is saying that assuming Iran agrees to give what has been agreed to, he says, then Operation Epic Fury will be at an end. So, diplomacy's back on in theory, but at the moment we're waiting to see whether that really will end up in a deal. I think what is clear right now is that Iran and the US don't want the full-scale war to restart.
And Tom, last night, Secretary Rubio said Operation Epic Fury was, quote, concluded. What do you think he means by that? Is the fighting over?
Well, I think what we've seen, Diane, in the last 24, 48 hours is US officials really draw a line between Operation Epic Fury, the full-scale war against Iran, and this new military operation to try and create the security dynamic around the Strait of Hormuz, which is called Operation Freedom. And look, Secretary Rubio was really kind of pushing the message that Operation Freedom, as they put it, was a defensive operation. He was saying, we'll only fire at them if they fire at us. Now the president has paused that operation. It does, I think, suggest the complexities around that operation. 1,500 ships to get through that Strait of Hormuz. Look, the Iranians don't need much. Analysts have said this, experts have said this time and time again. They just need a few drones, they just need a few missiles, and most of the estimates, and some of this is coming from US intelligence, is that Iran potentially might have thousands of missiles still in their stockpile, despite the full-scale war, obviously causing huge damage to Iran's military. So it still suggests, even if Iran doesn't fully control the Strait of Hormuz, it only needs to be able to threaten ships for ships not to have the confidence to go through, and therefore still hold the world's economy to ransom, push the gas prices up in the US, as we've seen. And this is why Iran seems to think that it has big cards to play here, can hold out. And this is why we'll have to look at the diplomacy now and whether or not the US or Iran are going to make concessions here. Is Iran actually going to make concessions to get a deal? And the other missing part in this whole jigsaw puzzle, Dan, to bear in mind is China. President Trump, within the next couple of weeks, is hoping to go to China for a big meeting with President Xi. The Chinese receive a lot of oil exports from Iran. They are pretty tied closely to Iran. And today, the Iranian foreign minister is in Beijing for important meetings. So that is another part of this. And it seems that there is a diplomatic push. The diplomatic push is back on to try and get a deal.
Okay, let's go to the next report. Economic impact of Iran war on world's most vulnerable countries. Let's get into it. Someone in the chat asked about, I think it was Danielle, asked about the virus, saying you thought there was a cure. No, there is absolutely no cure.
Fighting does not resume. The global economic impact of the standoff in the Strait of Hormuz remains. It's felt most acutely in countries already hit by conflict, poverty, and food shortages. The Strait of Hormuz blockade has nearly doubled the price of fuel, while urea for fertilizer has gone up 85%. According to Mercy Corps, the worst-hit countries include Sudan, Somalia, Ethiopia, Pakistan, Myanmar, and Lebanon. In Sudan, petrol prices increased 66% in a single week in April. In Somalia, fuel prices rose 150% in March, while in Myanmar, the cost of diesel has increased by 160%. Even if full-scale fighting does not resume, the global economic impact of the standoff in the Strait of Hormuz remains. It's felt most acutely in countries.
Now, with that all being said, Pensilola says, Queen, do an open conversation for us one day. Yeah, we can absolutely do that, where I drop the link and let you all get up here. Okay, I'll have to see what topic we'll be discussing when we do have that, beloved. That's a good idea. We haven't done that in a while. Okay, thank you for your suggestion and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, now, with that all being said, Iran defiant as the U.S. pushes to reopen Strait of Hormuz. Let's get into it.
Streets of Tehran today, even the statues are wrapped in nationalism. Newspapers sneer at the U.S.'s new Project Freedom. Signs celebrate regime continuity. And posters proclaim Iran's stranglehold on the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's public rhetoric remains defiant. Today, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps warned that ships crossing the Strait of Hormuz without coordinating with Iran would be, quote, categorically dealt with. And on X, Iran's chief negotiator and Parliament Speaker Mohammad Ghalibaf today accused the U.S. of a violation of the ceasefire and warned, we have not even begun yet. And for the second day in a row, the United Arab Emirates said it was attacked by Iranian missiles and drones that yesterday hit Fujairah, the UAE's only major port that bypasses the Strait of Hormuz. Yesterday, Iran also launched small boats like these and missiles at U.S. ships, actions that today President Trump downplayed.
What do they need to do to violate the ceasefire?
Well, you'll find out, because I'll let you know. They know what to do, and they know what to do. They know what not to do, more importantly, actually. And, they fired them in little boats with pea shooters, the pea shooters, little boat with little, why? Because they don't have any boats anymore.
The ceasefire is not over.
At the Pentagon, Secretary Hegseth also dismissed Iran's attacks on U.S. forces yesterday as what he called frothiness.
We expected there would be some churn at the beginning, which happened.
But Iran's
some churn. Did y'all hear that? He said, that's right, Nene, he's so stupid. He said we expected there would be some churn. What are they doing, making butter? Y'all hear him? Some churn? Okay, that's what he calls it. These people are so ridiculous. And it's sad. Okay,
defiance
it's really,
extends
really sad.
to the negotiating table, where President Trump has acknowledged they refuse to accept U.S. demands. Until those talks are fruitful, President Trump today made clear he does not want to increase pressure on Iran by resuming the war.
We don't want to go in and kill people. We really don't. I don't want to. It's too tough.
Instead, the U.S. says it will maintain economic pressure including new threats today on Chinese banks facilitating Iranian oil exports, and a diplomatic push at the UN to condemn Iran's Strait chokehold.
They're not going to change their position out of the kindness of their heart. There has to be a pressure point on them that causes them to realize they cannot continue to close the straits, or they face crushing economic consequences, but also, global diplomatic isolation, which they have proven in the past to be susceptible to.
But Iran's chokehold over the strait, through which 20% of the world's oil and natural gas traveled before the war, has not only affected American gas prices, it has led to higher prices around the world, leading to food and humanitarian aid shortages.
A lot of people can't afford to eat the basic commodities, the basic foods that they rely on.
Matthew Hollingworth is an assistant executive director at the World Food Program. He says since the war began and the Strait of Hormuz largely closed, food prices across Central and Eastern Africa have increased by as much as 50%, at a time when WFP already faced aid cuts.
We are in a situation today already, because of this war, that 1.5 million people we simply cannot afford to help anymore. We know in the next 3 months, if the price of oil stays above $100 a barrel, that figure will jump to 9 million more people that we will not be able to help.
WFP predicts the number of people who are food insecure will increase by 45 million by the summer if the Strait of Hormuz, that is so vital to all shipping, isn't open. Humanitarian organizations have tried to create workarounds to avoid the strait, but it is not sustainable, says Hollingworth.
So we can go on different routes, but it does add, again, weeks, and it adds serious cost. The easiest, fastest way to do it is a resolution in the Middle East that will reopen these supply chains that the world desperately needs.
But
so as for now, the strait's closed. Okay, let's go to this last clip where they say Trump delivered a disastrous speech to an entire room that fell silent. Okay, let's get into that. And then we got to get to this debate with Isaiah Martin and some nefarious Republicans on CNN. All right, here we go.
Into a room full of business leaders today and proceeded to have the most public cognitive unraveling of his entire second term. And I want to be precise about that word, unraveling, because this was not one slip. It was not a single stumble that a sympathetic editor could cut around. This was 4 separate moments in the same meeting, in front of the same cameras, with the same room full of executives sitting there in complete and total silence every single time. This meeting was supposed to be about small businesses, tax deductions, economic policy, the kind of thing that generates 15 seconds of B-roll on the nightly news and then nobody talks about again. But instead of any of that, Trump stood at that podium and told the room he could create no employment in America with the stroke of a pen. Then he started screaming about his cognitive test scores unprompted. Then he claimed Obama and Biden would both fail a dementia screening. And then, as the capstone to all of it, he casually mentioned he plans to be in office for 8 or 9 more years. Not as a punchline, not with a wink, just as a thing he said, in the middle of a tax policy explanation, on camera, in front of witnesses. And every single time, that room went silent. Not politely quiet, stunned silent. The kind of silence that has a texture to it. The kind where everyone knows something wrong just happened and nobody wants to be the one to say so. These are executives. These are people who fire employees without blinking, who negotiate billion-dollar contracts, who run companies, and they sat there frozen 4 separate times in the same hour. The silence is the story. The silence tells you everything. So walk through every piece of this with me. Play this.
Jobs, and I could with one swipe of the pen, I could say, let's have no employment, and I'll hire 1 million people or 2 million people. I say, we just hired 1 million people and we have absolutely no employment. And that's what they would do. They'd have bad numbers coming up, so they'd hire a couple of 100,000 people and the numbers would look okay. With me, it's the exact opposite. We terminate a lot of federal jobs that are unnecessary. And they don't like me for doing it, but a year later, they like me because they end up having a much better job, oftentimes in a place where they'd much rather live. You know, they go to the place that they want to go. They're not stuck in Washington or someplace else.
No employment. He said no employment, not no unemployment, not falling unemployment numbers, no employment. Donald Trump stood in front of a room of business leaders and said, with one swipe of the pen, he could create no employment in America.
Okay, y'all heard that. Trump said no employment with a swipe of his pen. Okay, this man is very dangerous, and he absolutely needs to be out of. He needs to be out of there. And let me just tell you all something. Hold on, let me pull up this clip so I can let you all see what happened in South Korea. Hold on. I'm pretty sure I still have the clip. Hold on, beloveds. Yeah, here it is. Now, I want you all to pay attention to what happened in South Korea. Hold on. The people finally got tired, okay, of dealing with the BS.
I don't think anybody understands what just happened in South Korea, but we will. In a matter of 6 hours, South Korean citizens stared down the barrel of a military dictatorship and shut it down. It was only 40 years ago that South Korea had a military dictatorship. Their citizens, they've seen how bad it is, and they're not going to let it happen again. Americans have lost that fight. Not only did President Yoon back down and rescind his declaration of martial law, but as a result, the Korean Federation of Trade Unions, which includes 1 million workers, including the entire Hyundai assembly line, announced an indefinite general strike until President Yoon resigns. Adjusting for population, that would be like if 7 million Americans went on strike to demand the resignation of Donald Trump. The overwhelming response was warranted. South Korean officials announced that they reviewed closed-circuit footage, discovered that in the process of declaring martial law, President Yoon attempted to have the opposition party leader, the ruling party leader, and the Speaker of the National Assembly arrested. They tried to arrest political leaders before they could hold a vote to overturn martial law. President Yoon attempted to overthrow the South Korean government. South Korean citizens have seen this movie before, and they're not going to watch a rerun. So instead of allowing President Yoon to provide Donald Trump with a case study on how to overthrow a modern democratic government, South Korean citizens provided us with a blueprint on how to respond if Donald Trump tries to do the same.
Okay, do y'all hear that? Do y'all hear that? Okay, at the end of the day, Trump's talking about being in office all this time or whatever. Something has to be done. Okay, something has to be done. Period. Now, if we all have to go on strike, then so be it. Everybody needs to go on strike to get him out of there, to demand his resignation. Just like the people of South Korea. That's all I'm saying. Or otherwise deal with the consequences of him continuously being in office. Okay, and we already see how the midterms are going. They literally declared a state of emergency in Louisiana. Okay, that's what they did, so they could change the maps and all of that. But now, with that all being said, let's go. Oh, and Pensacola said, get those quarter rolls, family. Okay. Thank you, beloved, for the advice, and thank you for your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, let's go to this debate about Trump's war on Iran and how it's just as unpopular as Vietnam. Now, they had Isaiah Martin on the show, and he was going head to head with conservative strategist Tim Parrish. Okay, so let's get into it. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Okay, and then we're going to go to another one with Adam Mockler. Okay, here we go.
And if you want to sit here and get mad at Donald Trump because you hate him, that's fine. But
Let me just say something I want you all to pay attention to. One thing that I notice about these Republicans is they can't make it make sense because it makes no sense. Everything that Trump is doing is nonsensical, including this nefarious proxy war. So whenever they're debating someone who's speaking logically, who's making very valid and true and honest points, they don't have anywhere to go. So they'll start saying things like, oh, you don't like Donald Trump, or they'll just start asking them a question rather than answering the question posed to them. They will hit the person with the question. And that's all avoidance. It's just gaslighting and deflecting. Like I told you, they have 4 points that they use. The Trump administration and all of his little minions, they have 4 points that they use. And we discussed that on another broadcast. So they can refrain from answering the questions directly, because they can't answer them directly and honestly without it making them look and sound like the fools that they all are. Okay, they cannot make it make sense because it makes no sense. Okay, so let's get into it. That's right, Dorada, deflection at its finest. Exactly.
Iranians are not our friends.
When you have Republicans, Democrats, and independents all saying virtually the same thing, that we have concerns about the objectives, we don't think it's benefiting us, we think it's hurting us, that's a signal that the American people aren't behind you. And
Whatever you want to use, can you let me talk, for crying out loud? Tell me a popular war in the United States. Besides World War II, besides World War II, can you tell me a popular war? Tell me a war that is polled well in this country.
Gulf War One.
No war in. Well, first of all, we can laugh at the table. War is not popular.
The only reason they have that enriched uranium is because Trump bailed on the Obama.
But that also
and didn't replace
sunset and was going to allow them to
In
continue.
2030. In 2030, it was going to sunset.
Okay,
it was
well,
not
it was
going
going
to
to
sunset
sunset
today.
at some point. It wasn't this panacea.
Wow, that was fun.
Good evening, I'm Abby Phillip in New York. An inflection point tonight in Donald Trump's presidency and his war. Thousands across America on this May Day protesting the president's policies and calling for better working conditions as costs skyrocket due to his tariffs and this war with Iran. Fewer than half of Republicans say that the country and its cost of living is heading in the right direction. This is a letter from the Trump administration to Congress. It says, on April 7th, 2026, I ordered a 2-week ceasefire. The ceasefire has been extended. There's been no exchange of fire between the United States forces and Iran since April 7th, 2026. The hostilities that began in February have terminated. Essentially, they're saying the war is over. The war is over, but gas prices are still going up. So Americans are asking themselves, excuse me, so when is this going to be over for us?
Mm-hmm. Well, to Terry's point, I think what the Trump administration needs to be very careful about is not falling into the same trap that the Biden administration fell into and what ultimately propelled Donald Trump back to the White House, and that is ignoring the feelings of the American people as it relates to rising fuel costs, rising electricity costs. There are a lot of good economic metrics. You look at the market. The market has done well. They're not spooked by all this. In fact, the S&P 500, I think, had its best month in April since 2020 when Donald Trump was last president. You also have manufacturing coming back to this country.
Real wage growth is about 80% less than what it was when Joe Biden was in office. That's a fact. And we know that private sector spending to build new manufacturing facilities in this country is down 20% from what it was from when Joe Biden was in office. We're seeing that all around. We're at the 60th day of this conflict, 60 days in. And what exactly have the American people gotten? The Iranian regime is still very much in charge. They still have their nuclear capabilities. They're paying more than $4.30 per gas. Inflation went from 2.7% the night of the presidential election all the way up to about 3.3%. They're paying more for everything in this country. And what's happening? So the reality is Trump thinks that he's found some type of perma-war glitch where he can effectively just go and subvert Congress. But at the end of the day, we're spending more than $500 million per day on this blockade. And for the people at home, you might smirk, but the people at home,
and I'll tell you exactly
$500 million a day.
I'll
If
tell
you
you
pay
exactly
that
why,
for over
Isaiah, I'm
about
smirking.
2 weeks, you can pay for the cost of universal child care for everybody in this country in a month. That's the reality. Your priorities are messed up. You would rather spend more money on bombs and war than on the people.
So
in this country.
that was a great
And that's why
campaign
people don't
stump
support
speech.
it.
I loved it. It was really well delivered and rehearsed before the show. But It's funny to me when Democrats suddenly get religion on spending when our national security is at stake.
25% of the national
You
debt
have
is
never
happening in
cared
Republican
about the
presidents. What are you
debt
talking
and
about?
our deficits
not true.
until it's
25%
an
of the national debt
opportunity
has
to
happened
knock
under
Donald Trump.
25
And Joe Biden spent like a drunken sailor. Barack Obama spent like a
Joe
drunken
Biden
sailor. Bill
approved
Clinton
half
said-
of the amount of non-COVID related spending than what Donald Trump
but
did.
if part
You
of
don't know what
your
you're talking about.
issue with the war, the conflict, the excursion,
You're
whatever
pivoting.
you want to use, can you let me talk, for crying out loud? If part of your issue is spending, I find that to be completely and totally disingenuous, because you will spend to high heaven. Ukraine, you couldn't spend enough on Ukraine. Ukraine, I believe that we need to be a part of that, but that's not our fight. Iran having a nuclear weapon is our fight, because they
still
want
have their
to
nuclear
attack
material.
Americans. They have killed Americans for
They
47
still have their
years.
nuclear
Do you
material,
know
and the regime
history?
is still
They
in
do.
place.
They do.
So what have you
1,000
done?
pounds of 60% enriched uranium that we need to secure.
So what have you done?
Darn
They
right.
only made it
That's
because
why it's
Trump
not
killed
over
the,
yet.
the Obama
The
deal.
Obama,
the only reason they have that in.
First of all, his argument is so ridiculous, because at the end of the day, they didn't even have 60% of enriched uranium until Trump canceled the deal that Obama already made. Okay? So they cannot make logical sense of it, period. That's what they can never do, because Trump went ass backwards. He got rid of the deal, he tore it up, the deal that Obama had set in place, and now look where we are.
Enriched uranium is because Trump bailed on the Obama
But that
deal
also
and didn't replace
sunset
it
and
with
was
anything.
going to allow them to
In
continue.
2030. In
In
2030,
10
it was going to sunset.
Okay,
it was
well,
not going
it
to
was going to
sunset
sunset
today.
at some
Tim,
point. It wasn't this panacea
Let me-
to them
let
having
me let
nuclear
Tim
weapons.
have a word.
We need to stop talking about it that way.
Go ahead, Tim.
Wow, that was fun. Look, I do find it funny, and that when during the Biden administration, when gas in places like California got to $6 a gallon, the Biden administration response was, well, the president is not responsible for gas prices. The president doesn't have a culpability in gas. Well, sure, it's a talking point. I agree, but it's a talking point that was used in the Biden administration.
First of all, I so hate his voice. Second of all, why do they always need to bring up the prior administration? Well, because that's what they do. Because they try to discredit Biden or Obama to make it look like, okay, why are y'all complaining about Trump?
And now, okay, great. I think
Hold on.
And now,
Hold on.
Can I finish my point?
Go ahead,
Can I
Tim.
finish my point?
Yeah.
They now have reversed that when now the president of the United States is Donald Trump. Now all of a sudden gas prices are the responsibility of the president. I want to go to something that you said because I think this is an insane argument. And I told Pete before the show I was going to let folks come on and show for the Iranians. So you've done a really great job of that.
You see, that is exactly what Republicans always do.
It's not because this isn't
think that because
hold on a second. Let me let him.
Now pay attention, because now what he's trying to imply is that anyone who criticizes the war on Iran is for Iran. Okay, and not for the United States. So that's what he said. He said he was shilling for the Iranians. Okay, now you say that because you have nothing else to say that makes sense and that can explain or justify this nefarious proxy war. That's what you can't do. So now he wants to act like, oh, you're just a shield for Iran. Okay, well, you're a shield for the Republicans if that's the case. And the bottom line is, because you disagree with the war does not mean that. But listen to how it all goes for him. Watch how he never answers directly the next question.
Republican or Democrat,
and then I'll let you respond.
The Iranian regime for 50 years, long before you and I were even born, and hopefully not long after we're around, have said death to America. They want everybody at this table to be dead. And if they get their hands on a nuclear bomb, that's exactly what will happen. Our allies in Europe, our friends in the region, and us here at home are directly under the threat of the Iranians. And I don't know if you know any Americans that have been killed by the Iranians. I certainly do. This is a murderous regime. And if you want to sit here and get mad at Donald Trump because you hate him, that's fine. But the Iranians are not our friends. And them having a nuclear bomb is not good
So
for
before
anyone.
you respond, let me just ask you a question, because it speaks to what President Trump was saying. Are you, like Trump, suggesting that if you disagree with this war, as a majority of Americans do, that you're doing so because you want the Iranians to win?
Abby, the way that this question has been framed, this entire thing, just tell me a popular war in the United States.
You see how he didn't answer her question at all? You see how he hit her with the question? This is what they always do. He said, tell me a popular war. But why didn't he answer her question? She just asked him, are you trying to say, like Donald Trump says, that anyone who disagrees with the war wants Iran to win? Yes, that's what he's trying to say, but he doesn't want to admit that. So now let's bring up something else and let's talk about another war. See, that's what I would not let them do. That's why I would love to debate them, because I would not let them pivot. You're not going to switch the narrative. You're not going to go over here and ask this question. Answer my question first. Okay, that's what you need to do. Blessed child of Yah says Republicans, Democrats, two wings, same bird, one bird. My trust is in Yah, not them. Exactly. Exactly, beloved. I agree. Thank you for your insight to the topic and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings.
United States. Besides World War II, can you tell me a popular war? Tell me a war that is polled well in this country.
Gulf War I. I mean, that one was popular.
The one that lasted 100 hours.
I mean, it didn't last 100 hours.
Is that what we're talking about?
It did not. It didn't last 100 hours, but it was popular. I mean, you asked what popular
we
war.
have not had no war in. Well, first of all, we can laugh at the table. I mean, war is not popular.
Well, let me put this.
World War II.
Let me put this another way.
Let me put this. We're going to base polls. The president.
Hold on a second. Let me put this another way.
On polling,
most of
bases
these
it on the safety and security of the
most of these other conflicts became unpopular over time, over a period of years. Right. It has been 60 days, and this war has never been popular. It's not just that it is unpopular now. It has never been, from the very beginning, popular. So it's not that this is a popularity contest, but it's just that when you have Republicans, Democrats, and independents all saying virtually the same thing, that we have concerns about the objectives, we don't think it's benefiting us, we think it's hurting us, that's a signal that the American people aren't behind you. And at the very least, if you're an elected leader in a democracy, that should matter, right?
I believe it does. I'm just going to continue to make the point. The Iranians with a nuclear bomb is not good for anyone.
Which is the president of the United States. I promised Isaiah he would respond to what you said.
Here's the reality here. Yeah. If that was really your objective, you never would have pulled out the JCPOA. That's first things first. But I want people to understand, this is what the Republican Party feels about the 61% of Americans, Republicans, independents, and Democrats that disagree with this war. That you somehow are shilling for the Iranian regime if you go and question your government spending $2 billion a day on a war and a conflict that the regime is still very much in place. They still have their enriched uranium. It is not unpatriotic to question why this president has never justified this war to the American people. That's what you did.
Those words actually never left my mouth.
You said that he was shilling for the Iranians.
That's pretty unpatriotic, I would say.
You can disagree with the president all day. You can also agree with the fact
you just said that he can.
He can. He's an American citizen. He has a First Amendment right to disagree with the president all day.
But you also said that he's supporting the Iranians, which is just not accurate.
The fact of the matter is, are you okay with the Iranians having a nuclear bomb that can be used against our allies?
Which is exactly why I support the JCPOA. That's exactly why
they were still developing a nuclear bomb.
No, they were not. There's not one example of them violating the terms of that deal. Tell me one example of them violating the terms.
You tell me one example of where they're not developing.
That's a refusal to answer the questions. He says, tell me one example of how they were violating the JCPOA or whatever you call it. And then he says, tell me an example of when they were not. The bottom line is they were not. They had people going to check on them. They had people going to make sure they were not building a nuclear weapon. Over 100 people were going, to do the inspections. They even said It's Not Real could come and send people to do the inspections. They were not in violation of it. Now, that's the pivot that the Republicans keep going to, because they know they all look and sound just as ignorant as they actually are, and specifically Trump. Because why did he get rid of the deal that Obama made, and now he's desperate to get another deal? That's just idiotic.
You can't show me. They're not developing a nuclear bomb. So wait a second. You're telling me
because you pulled out the deal.
Let's just.
That's the reason for 45 years. It's been because we negotiate with them.
Let me just reset for a second. Hold on a second. Let me just reset for a second because we're all talking at the same time. Just a quick point, because of course we are almost at time for break. But on the JCPOA, look, a lot of Republicans didn't like it. But at the same time, you have to acknowledge that the moment that Trump pulled out of that deal, is when the Iranians went from not having anything nuclear material that was close to bomb grade to having a lot of material that was close to bomb grade. It was at that moment. And so now in that time, since we have been out of that deal, Iran has gone from not having materials that's been verified by the international organizations and other countries to having 60% enriched uranium, tons and tons of it. So that's a fact.
We come from a man who tried to kill our mama and a mama who wants to kill that man.
Nick. That was absolutely a fact, and it's no way he can deny that. Okay, but like I said, I just love how they always try to go back and say, well, you know, they were doing it anyway. No, the hell they weren't. Okay, no, they weren't. I think that's the end of this clip. Let's see. Then I want to go to this last clip with Adam Mockler. Yeah, that's the end of that. So let's go to this clip with Adam Mockler. This is from yesterday. They say the war is causing a generational divide.
Just worse since World War II.
You are telling young people they shouldn't be asking questions. I think, honestly, Adam, that's immensely ungrateful to American service personnel and the people who keep us safe every day.
We do not need nuclear weapons to control the Straits of Hormuz. The Straits of Hormuz are right there. You can't change geography. They need small speedboats.
I'm not in the classified briefings, and neither are you. So just be quiet for a minute and let me finish.
At the start of the war, Americans were pretty evenly divided in their support for the conflict. But now 61% say that the campaign in Iran was a mistake. And there is a clear generational gap, too. While older Americans are split, 61% under the age of 35 oppose the war. And 80% of those under 30 say there were no sufficient reasons to attack Iran in the first place. This generational divide, I think, when it comes to war, has always been a thing in America, but it seems particularly acute right now, Adam.
Yeah, for my entire life, the United States has been at war with some country in the Middle East, and young people have constantly been told that this will make us safer and make us better off. When we look around at the world today, we are less safe and we are worse off. Millennials grew up watching all these headlines saying that Iraq had been, defeated, that we had taken out Saddam Hussein and we had killed all the bad guys. Well, that turned into a grinding counterinsurgency that cost us $1 trillion, and it was a catastrophe. The same thing happened with Afghanistan. And now Gen Zers are going through the same thing with Iran. We are watching the same people who defended these first two failed wars go on television and defend another failed war. This war is failing. We have not gotten any political concessions. And I'm sorry, I'm not buying this trust the process line. I don't trust the same people who got us into the prior wars, amassed trillions of dollars in debt, and are not putting America first on the global stage.
So putting aside, perhaps for a moment, even the politics of this current moment, I mean, is it fair for young people to have that level of distrust of the people, to Adam's point, who maybe defended the last war and were wrong and are defending this war too?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think, honestly, Adam, that's immensely ungrateful to American service personnel and the people who keep us safe every day. After 9/11, it was by no means guaranteed that there would be no mass casualty terrorist attack on American soil in the immediate aftermath of that attack, especially since we had events in Madrid and London, et cetera. And after the attack on Iraq and the elimination of Saddam Hussein's regime, we took a terrorist supporting enterprise off the map. We don't talk about Iraq anymore as a threat to national security because it isn't. And those who would pretend as though Iran is not a national security threat and are just frankly dismissive of the extent to which American service personnel get up every day to stop these people from executing the attacks on American and their allies that they plan every single day. This is a thorn in our side. It absorbs a lot of American taxpayer dollars, to say nothing of the energy of our service personnel. And I just think it's just ungrateful. I am so to say grateful. That the service personnel are not keeping you safe when they are. No, I feel less safe due to the actions of our leaders. I'm incredibly grateful for our servicemen. You're doing
your feelings don't make it a fact.
You are doing
feelings. The way you feel doesn't make it a fact.
You are doing.
Let
me finish. He was talking to me.
Hold on a second, Hal. I'll let you respond.
No,
let him finish.
You are doing the exact same thing that I just laid out in the opening. You are telling young people they shouldn't be asking questions. They shouldn't be questioning the people in power because it's ungrateful. Questions about the nature of the then what was ungrateful about what I said? I said that the leaders are making us less safe, and I can prove that. Right now, Iran has control over the Strait of Hormuz, and that is a weapon they didn't have control of 2 months ago. Of course they did. They shut down the Strait of Hormuz in the 80s. And we opened it up in the 80s.
And by the way,
There was free
Iran
passage
with
to
a
the Strait of
nuclear
Hormuz
weapon. You think
2
gas
months ago.
prices are high right now? Iran with a nuclear weapon, we'd have unlimitedly high.
Why are they trying to gang up on Adam as soon as he starts trying to talk? They won't even let him get his points across because they're just talking over him and being so rude.
High gas prices. They would take control of the Strait of Hormuz and they would blackmail the world.
And how much farther away are they from having a nuclear weapon? Where's the enriched uranium right now?
They're non-existent.
Where is the enriched uranium
We're
right now?
going to get the enriched uranium.
No, where is it? I want you to answer.
It's buried right now. But you,
no, where is it buried?
You're asking me. I'm not in the classified briefings, and neither are you. So just
where
be quiet
is it
for a minute
buried?
and let
We
me
know it's
finish.
buried in Iran.
Let me finish.
Okay, Adam,
we are more safe than we were before we took out Iran's nuclear capabilities. Absolutely more safe. The Strait of Hormuz is going to be open, and Iran's not going to control it. That is
In 2
absolutely
weeks?
going to happen. It doesn't matter if it's 2 weeks or 2 months.
It does actually matter
It does
because
not.
economists are saying if it's closed for a few more months, then we're going to go into a recession. So it does matter.
No,
it absolutely does matter.
No one's predicting that because the markets that are all-time high.
No one's predicting that?
The markets that are an all-time high, the markets aren't predicting it.
With the oil markets?
The inflation rate has stayed where it is. And by the way,
What was inflation when
by the
Biden
way,
took office?
unemployment has stayed low. So
hold
when
on.
you're talking about everyone's predicting this.
Can you look the average American in the
Just
eye?
to be clear, inflation has ticked up.
Yes.
It has not stayed the same. But Bobby, you were around for the politics and the conflict of the last 2 Middle East wars. I mean, what do you make of this generational debate about whether it's wise to be going into another conflict in this region?
Well, I can't fault the logic that when you've seen this happen through your lifetime and you're still living with the consequences of it in one fashion or the other, you're bound to be reluctant to get into the war. Nobody is disputing for the fact that for a moment that the Iranians are the Iranian regime are bad guys. But when you hear the president and our leadership constantly changing the explanation they're giving for why we're at war, constantly changing the timetable of how long this is going to last, and then forgetting how long it has been going on, then you're right to push back and say, kindly give us a clearer explanation for why we're there, how long we're going to be there for. It's not enough to say, sit at this table and say, it'll be over, and then the Straits of Hormuz will be open. We've got no indication of that being the case.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
Very clearly, the administration has determined, because they've basically ended the kinetic conflict of it all, they've determined that the only way to actually get the things that we want, which is Iran abandoning its nuclear ambitions, moving away from funding terrorism, is to get to the negotiating table, which is the same truth that existed a year ago after they did the first set of strikes. So, I mean, I think that's part of the problem, is that war has not necessarily gotten us the outcome that they say that we are trying to get here.
No, and that's because the rationale for the war has shifted multiple times. No one here has ever said we want a nuclear armed Iran. That is a red herring at this point. This is the only talking point that the pro-Trump folks have, because they've gotten themselves into a situation that they were unprepared for. And what's incredibly ungrateful, you know who's incredibly ungrateful? Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, for the men and women who are serving in this war, who are on deployments that are extra long, who are not getting their ships resupplied, who don't understand what they're doing over there, who are being taken for granted. Our military is the greatest in the world, and the men and women who serve are the greatest in the world, and they are being taken for granted as props in a political effort by Donald Trump to make himself feel better so he can distract from everything else that's going on domestically. And now he's gotten himself into a situation where he can't even explain cogently why we're there, what's going on, and why the American people should have to pay the price for it. So that's what's going on here. I mean, when I was a Republican for many years, we
Now, I want y'all to look at the look on Adam's face as Tara is speaking. Okay, he looks so thrilled. Okay, can you see the glee in his face as she's talking? Because she's telling absolute facts. These Republicans sound like idiots, because that's what they are.
absolutely looked at Iran as the threat that it is, and absolutely were trying to do things to make sure that they did not continue to be the world's sponsor of terror. But this isn't it. This is not it.
Noah, you talked about Adam, you accused Adam of being ungrateful. I just want you to look at these charts. Look at what happened to public opinion when it came to the war in Afghanistan? Was it a mistake for the U.S. to send military forces to Afghanistan? The war started out as incredibly popular, and then it became much less popular. So about half of Americans said that it was a mistake, and about half said that it was not. The same is true of Iraq. Incredibly popular, right decision, 72% back at the beginning of it. And by the end of the conflict in 2014, it was down to 38%. I mean, are all of these Americans ungrateful? I mean, I imagine many of them they ended up tasting the consequences of the war, including the impacts on their lives, people that they knew, people who may not have even lost their lives in theater, but came back forever scarred by it. I mean,
to clarify what I had said previously is that it is, in my view, ungrateful to American service personnel to say that they have not kept us safe when we do not measure. That's not what I said.
But he didn't say that. So you have to acknowledge
No. He's saying that we can measure non-events, which is to suggest that the attacks that have not happened, which none of us are aware of, were not avoidable because of the nature of these conflicts, and the conflicts themselves are.
Now he's sitting here trying to paint a whole fictitious narrative. Okay, Adam never said anything like that remotely. Okay.
What inspires the attacks?
I think
it's almost
the problem
inviting
is that
the notion
the
that
problem
America is
is that
responsible for the terrorist.
That's not really the argument that he's making. The argument that he's making is that the people who made the arguments to go into these conflicts in the first place misled, which is a fact, and secondly, that the conflicts ended up lasting a very long time, costing a lot of American treasure, and those are also facts. So he didn't say it's because they're they didn't keep us safe. That's not actually what he said.
Well, that is kind of what he said. But let's not belabor the point. I have all the time in the world for criticism.
He's literally going to still sit there and lie. Oh, and it's kind of what he said. No, it's not. Okay, he's just trying to make it what he wants it to be. Who the hell does he think he is? Honey, people like that, I would just have to drag him for filth.
Of the president's rhetoric all the time in the world. In fact, I think a lot of the reasons why the public is soured on this is because the president never approached Americans and solicited their support, told them the burdens they were expected to bear, and told them why they were going into this. But as important as it is to criticize the president's rhetoric, it's also important to talk about what's happening on the ground. And we are closer today to opening up the strait by virtue of what we heard from Admiral Brad Cooper today and the operation that was engaged over the course of the last 24 hours. Very important.
I covered the war in Iraq. I was there for all the arguments going into that war in Iraq. I remember people saying this was the major sponsor of terror. And you pointed to 9/11. Iraq had nothing whatsoever to do with 9/11. And going into Iraq and toppling that regime, as much as I hated the regime as any right-thinking people, spawned from the direct consequence of that, the Islamic State, also a terrorist group that came directly out of our actions in Iraq. So, if we want to look at historical precedents, we should not cherry pick little bits out of a larger picture.
Exactly. Okay, I'm over it. With that, I've been said, listen, I'm about to be out of here. These people are talking crazy. These pro-Trumpers, all right? These pro-Trumpers are just doing the most as per usual. Now, with that all being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. But before I do, I wanted to tell you all about this foolish Black woman. She was in court and then had the nerve because she was getting no bail. So she threatened the judge or the prosecutor. She threatened the prosecutor. Hold on, let me go to the clip. As if that's going to make her get bail. Woman arrested over police chase, removed from court after threatening prosecutor for requesting no bond. Lord, she just had to be Black. She just had to be Black. Please pay attention.
Can I go? In contempt of court. You keep doing that, bro. Like you weird. Wait, please. Can I go? I'm about to sit out. And like this shit weird. Do you have to object to your defense? Y'all keep trying to put me in no bond. Like I should smack out of her. I really should. Bro, you got that anger, bro.
Aisha Harris leaves removed from the court, held in contempt as she threatens Assistant Prosecutor Elise Dieters. It all comes after this. Police say that's Harris leading them on a chase, pulling a trailer. New video today shows just how dangerous it was as she missed other vehicles on the road. Then officers try a pit maneuver. This comes next.
Stop! I need someone. There's pills, and I need someone now.
You can hear the desperation in the officer's voice. Then it gets worse. Cincinnati police officer Roger Epier spoke about it all publicly for the first time today as he relived the encounter.
It stemmed from a place of concern, fear. I don't know how else to react in that moment based on those emotions.
Having considered all the factors, the court is going to issue no bond.
Yeah, so how did it all get here? Well, after that pursuit, Harris was arrested. She was given bond. She got out. She cut the ankle bracelet off, according to prosecutors, took off. They located her in Georgia. They had to bring her back. And today, she was back trying unsuccessfully to get bond again.
Can I go?
In contempt of court.
So let me get this straight. She took the cops on a wild goose chase, got arrested for doing so, then clipped off her ankle bracelet and fled to Georgia? Honey, we don't need her here. I'm glad she's caught. Okay, we don't need that kind of mess going on around here, honey. Okay, we got law-abiding Negroes in Georgia. Down here in Georgia, our Negroes are the best. Okay, they do what they're supposed to do. Y'all know how on those old video clips from the 60s when you have the white folk talking about the Negroes in their town? We don't need anybody coming down here influencing our Negroes to do crimes. Okay, what is she thinking? I find it all so interesting. Then at the nerds get mad at the prosecutor? Girl, keep her locked up, okay? Keep her locked the hell up. I heard threatening a prosecutor in court, mind you. Anyway, with that all being said, I'm out of here. Listen, I love you all to life. I hope you all enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Now, I may be back later. If I do, it'll likely be around 7:30. Okay, so with that all being said, if you don't get a notification, just check the channel. All right, so until next time, beloveds, peace.
Yo, Nick, hit him with that flavor. Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen, why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood. Kings all in my circle, you touch touch one Ahmadiyyah dust. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and